Welcome to the Native Diamond Podcast.
Oh, shit! What you waiting for?
Please don't forget to like the video, hit subscribe, ring the bell. That way you're notified every time I drop a new episode of Native Diamond Podcast. Feel free to drop a comment because I love hearing feedback from you guys. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. What's up, my dudes? Seth Mick here. This is Native Diamond Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, on today's show, I have Jake Wolf, the vocalist of Reflections from Minnesota. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Stoked.
If you've never seen the podcast before, I start off with Icebreaker questions. They're about 25 or so off the top, either or style questions. I'll go ahead and kick it off with the first one. Nickelback or Pickleback?
You know, I'm not gonna lie. Nickelback has some jams and definitely some awesome drum tones in their music, so I'll go with Nickelback.
Would you rather play for 20,000 people or for just two people?
I mean, I've played for two people already, so I'll do the 20,000.
Would you rather be super rich or would you rather have a superpower?
Superpower.
Which do you like better? Bride of Frankenstein or Bride of Chucky?
I don't remember the last time I saw either one of those movies. I'll go with Bride of Chucky because the dolls are freaky looking.
Nice. Which would you rather have, beer or cocktail?
I don't drink, but if I ever did drink again, I always told myself maybe if I get to like 40 or 50 years old, like I'll crack a beer open, you know. Nice. Like you made it by that point.
Which do you like better, Fit for a King or Currents?
That's tough because, okay, so Fit, like I listened to a lot of Fit back, let's see, I mean, I kind of like took a break from metal for a few years, just like overall. Because Fit's got some bangers and so does Currents though. That's a tough one, dude. For now, talking some like new tunes, I have definitely been digging what I've been hearing from Currents. I think Fit has their new album coming out soon, right? They just put a single out?
They just dropped that EP.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah, it was only 4 songs.
Okay, maybe I thought there was more coming. Yeah, right now I'll go with Currents, but they're both sick, so.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it is tough.
Synthcore or crabcore?
Man, I might get roasted. What is Sethcore?
I mean, essentially, I feel like they have kind of the same stuff. I mean, like Attack would be a good prime example of synthcore, but there's a lot of
synthcore.
Yeah, synthcore.
Or crabcore. Damn. Yo, that Attack album with AC 130 on it was like top notch. So I'll go. But see, you need the crabcore breakdowns too. Damn. These are some good questions. I'll go with crabcore.
Nice.
Going with the crabcore.
All right. Which person are you? Are you the person that jumps in the mosh pit or are you standing in the back?
If you would have asked me this like 10 years ago, I would definitely used to love going in the pit and dancing. Now I'm too old. So I try and just appreciate the sound a little more. Now I'm leaning towards being in the back listening for sure.
That's where I'd be at, so I'd be right there with you. So I'm going to ask you, is it better to be the big fish in a small pond or a little fish in a big pond?
I suppose it would depend on the situation. I guess with music, again, it would depend on your genre too. I don't know. I think it's cool being a part of a big community, rather than just trying to dominate one aspect of something. So I would say it's cooler to be a small part of a big community.
Nice. Silverstein or Hawthorne Heights?
Damn. I'll be honest, I haven't really listened to either. But I'm pretty sure Silverstein put out this album a few years ago now that was really sick. So I'll go with Silverstein just because I do have some tunes from them like bouncing around in my head that I can remember. So
Right. X Games or the Olympics?
I'm gonna go Olympics just because there's a lot to watch with X Games too, but you just see like absolute some of the world's finest athletes on the Olympics, and that shit's just crazy. So
Yeah, no, that's
I
true.
mean, X Games is too though, but
Yeah.
it's the
I
fucking
mean,
Olympics. Like,
yeah, Olympics will surprise you because you'll be like, wow, I didn't
right.
know there's like a pro, whatever it is.
True. Yeah, they even have some stuff in there that you wouldn't expect.
Who would win in a fight, Bill Nye or Pee Wee Herman?
Bill Nye. Well, I don't know. Pee Wee Herman's kind of fucking crazy, but Bill Nye's got the smarts. So that's who I see coming out on top for sure.
Polaroid or digital?
Would depend on what you're going for. Polaroid's a little more of a cool concept for photography, I guess. You know, just like that snapshot, but digital is nicer if you need to do editing and whatnot. But if I had a Polaroid camera, I would think that's cooler than my digital one. So
We Came as Romans or Ice Nine Kills?
that's tough because I haven't heard a ton of Ice Nine. We played with We Came as Romans a super, super long time ago at this venue that isn't around anymore. But it was super dope. They were really cool. They were really good live. I've seen them live a couple times since, too. So I would have to say We Came as Romans just because I haven't heard a ton of Ice Nine. But I have definitely seen Ice Nine doing a lot recently, which is cool to see because I know that they've been at it for a while, so it's cool to see that for sure.
Right on. Resident Evil or Doom Eternal?
So I'm not a big video game person, but I played the really old Doom back in the day on a computer when I was a kid, and that was sick. So like when I saw the new Doom come out, and obviously everything Mick Gordon was doing with it for the soundtrack, just like push that up to the next level. So I would have to go Doom for sure.
It's really cool that, a video game incorporated like our scene in it. I thought it was really
Right,
fucking
dude.
cool.
No, that was, a funny thing is like in like 2016, I think. It must have been 2016 or really early 2017. When I first heard that Doom soundtrack, I reached out to Mick Gordon about potentially doing what would have been Willow. And we were in communication about it for a while. And then I don't know if it was the band not really being ready and his career just like, I mean, he was probably already doing big shit when he made that soundtrack for that game. But then I remember seeing he started doing all this other stuff too. So it was just like he probably got way too busy and just forgot about it. But it would have been cool. But he makes some awesome tunes.
Yeah, for sure. Ibanez or Jackson?
I like Ibanez more. I like the look of it a little bit more. I can't speak to the quality of them really. I have a 9-string Ibanez here. But I mean, Jacksons are sweet too. I know a lot of my buddies that use Jacksons like them. I would say guitar is like on a list of maybe the 5 instruments that I play. I'd say guitar is like the third one that I have knowledge about. So
Yeah.
more of a drummer than anything.
Circle Pit or Wall of Death?
I mean, the Wall of Death is pretty epic. Circle Pits are tight, but like just seeing all the people crash into each other is pretty dope.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can't really beat that. I'm kind of like an old school Nickelodeon dude, but Legends of the Hidden Temple or Double Dare?
I don't know what either of those are.
Well, you can totally skip on it. It's cool.
Well, are those shows or games?
Yeah, they were essentially like game shows. And
On
I don't know.
Nickelodeon? Was that on like when people get slimed and stuff?
Yeah, Double Dare was like the slime thing, and
Okay,
then
okay, yeah.
yeah.
I would go. I don't know. That was so vintage and classic. I would definitely go with that.
Right.
That was what was up.
I thought it was cool because like they made like slime a thing, and then yeah, it's just funny. It's funny that that was a '90s thing.
It was a different world.
Yeah, for sure. You'll never see anything like that now. Now everything's like probably VR or like.
It really is. Even like the cartoons, you can tell are, the animation is up really heavily with computer even.
Yeah, I miss like all the hand drawn stuff.
I do too, those like subtle imperfections a little bit.
Hmm. I don't know if you're a big horror guy or Halloween guy for that matter, but Nightmare Before Christmas or Nightmare on Elm Street.
I'd go with Elm Street because I have not seen a Nightmare Before Christmas or the Nightmare Before. Is it a Nightmare Before Christmas or the Nightmare?
I think it's technically a Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay. I've seen bits and pieces of it, and it's definitely really cool.
Mm.
But I don't like musicals. I don't.
But you do like Tim Burton, so you need to check it out.
Yeah, I know. I should champ through it.
It's not too bad. It's not your typical, musical or whatever.
Yeah, especially with the art. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. So this is a very interesting question, actually. But would you rather have $1 million or 1 million fans?
1 million fans.
Yeah. Would you want to elaborate on that?
I mean, there's probably a lot more potential. If you want to look at it from the point like fiscal and financially, you could either have $1 million or 1 million fans, considering that thinking that they may want to contribute to what you're doing, could be much more valuable than $1 a piece. Even if they're not all collectively $1 a piece, some of them could weigh out for the others. And it would also just be cooler to know 1 million people. What am I going to do with $1 million if I don't know anybody?
Yeah, that's a good answer. I don't know if you're like a huge comedy guy, but as far as comedians go, Patton Oswalt or Jim Carrey?
From what I've seen, I would say Jim Carrey strikes me as a little bit more of an artistic person. Maybe diversifies himself a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So I would probably go with that. I'm not super familiar with a ton of Patton Oswalt stuff. That's the dude from damn it, what is he in?
I honestly couldn't name any like off the top of my head. I
think he's in some show with the dude that plays Dennis Reynolds on Always Sunny, like AP Bio or something.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah, I could see that.
I'll go Jim Carrey.
Scream the movie or Friday the 13th?
It's Friday the 13th with Jason. No, Michael Myers, right?
No,
that's
Jason.
Halloween. Is it Jason?
Yeah, Friday the 13th is Jason. But I think the first one originally was his mother.
Okay. Damn. I'll go Friday the 13th because that story had a little bit more longevity to it. Scream was a cool looking character.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The Friday the 13th, I don't know. I think that's cooler.
Definitely. I don't know if you're a huge gamer, but Nintendo or Sony?
For me, like when I played video games, I still play sometimes. I literally said that if a new Grand Theft Auto came out, I would buy a new console just to play that game. Because I think those games are so fun. I would say Nintendo, because Nintendo was like a huge thing in my childhood. You had like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boys. Like I remember when that came out, dude, I would not stop playing Game Boy. And then N64 just had like classic games. I kind of fell off and started like biking and playing drums around the time the PS2 came out. So for me, Sony was definitely sweet. And nowadays, maybe I would say Sony. Is Nintendo making a new console with all the other ones?
Honestly, I don't know. Like, I don't know what they're gonna do with the Switch. I don't know if they're gonna upgrade
Oh,
it.
that's right. Yeah, we have the Switch is dope.
Yeah, the Switch
Yeah,
is
my
cool.
girlfriend has a Switch, and that actually is super sick. I'm gonna stick with Nintendo.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, that's tough, man. You know.
They're diversified a
Yeah,
little
for
bit
sure.
more.
I can't think of like any really like Sony exclusive games other than like Final Fantasy and like
Oh, sure.
Metal Gear. I don't even know like beyond that. I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't either. Nintendo's got a whole little compartment of
Yeah.
that community. Yeah, I'd definitely lean with that.
And Pokemon, I mean, that's huge for Nintendo.
Yeah, dude, Pokemon, I don't think I know anybody that wasn't all about Pokemon at one point in their life.
Yeah. I've tried the Pokemon Go thing, but I'm just not
I
active
wasn't
enough.
into that either. But
I don't know.
I definitely collected the cards when I was a kid, and I
Mhm.
definitely played Pokemon Stadium and had the little Game Boy games, like 100%.
Yeah, that was life for a long time, my childhood. I remember that specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Between these two types of metal, gent or thrash metal.
I'll go gent all day. I think there's definitely and there's elements of I think gent. People say it's not a genre or whatever. Definitely, it's becoming it is its own thing, obviously, but it really incorporates so many aspects from all other kinds of metal music. There's even thrashy elements to gent music in particular parts.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely cool thrash bands, and metal would not be what it is now without thrash metal. But yeah, gent music is just like this hybrid of all these different genres in one thing. So I think that's almost like what metal music is nowadays. Even like when you see deathcore bands and everything, a lot of them still have that element of what gent music is to it. The groove, the really syncopated riffs, and so yeah, 100% gent.
Last question. Worst band of all time?
Oh man, that's tough because like I like listening to really bad music sometimes, and like I don't when I say listen to bad music, like you find like, dude, there's this video, I can't remember what it's called, the artist's name, but the song is called "I Know She Wants Me Back," and it's so good. Oh man, here I'm gonna have to look it up for you.
Yeah, look it up.
So it's RAED, like R period A period E period D period, and the song's called "I Know She Wants Me Back." I would say maybe not band, but one of the best worst artists I've ever heard. Like I can't not listen to that song and start cheesing and smiling. Like you just gotta.
All right, I'll check it out. When we finish up, I'll check it out. That's great. Well, anyway, thanks for playing the Icebreaker questions. I really appreciate it. It's something I always do to start off the podcast. So I hope you had fun with that.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, what have you been up to lately in the whole grand scheme of things with coronavirus and everything else going on terrible in the world?
It was really weird because we started putting our album out, and for like 2 years now, I was thinking like we should really wait to do this until 2020 because it's like just seems like such a big year, and it just sounds really strong, and so we start rolling everything out, and as all this stuff started progressing, it just really there was a meme that I saw that was like perfect. I can't remember the context of what was in it really, but it like as every phrase of the meme went by, like the person kind of realized more and more like, oh shit, this is kind of serious. Like, but yeah, I was out of work for most of the year, even though I am working again now, it's significantly less than what I was doing. Luckily, I've been able to utilize this time that we had lockdowns and everything to work on a lot. I would say that myself and the band and other projects that I'm going to be a part of now probably have a good 2 to 3 years of music and releases lined up now, which is really, really cool and interesting to see how that worked out. I've been doing I picked up things that I probably should have picked up long before. I try to make the best out of this as much as I can. So I started working out pretty much like every day, eating better, spending more time away from the internet, but also at the same time, something really, crucial and important that's happened this year, in my opinion, is just how indecently and unfairly a lot of people are treated, particularly in our country. And so, really doing my best to understand more about other perspectives. And, it's been really eye-opening seeing how you really don't know people,
Yeah.
So that's just been crazy. And, I've just been trying to check in on all the people that I care about and, rebuild broken bridges. Like I definitely have this year have taken a look back at, these last handful of years have been really, I just said this to someone else, it's been very humbling in a lot of different ways. Not necessarily all because of good things happening. But you just, it puts a lot of things into perspective. So I've tried to really right any wrongs that I have done, or, there's just no time to be a lesser person, So
Yeah.
I guess this year has really helped me with that a lot. And it sucks because, can't really see a ton of people either.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, a lot of music. That's pretty much been the go-to thing for me, and just trying to get as healthy as possible.
Yeah.
So.
Well, those are good goals to have. I think I've not had the opposite approach to things, but I've been kind of doing more of like a spring cleaning type thing where
Okay.
I'm like, okay, these things aren't really working for me in my life. So I'm like,
For sure.
just tossing them to the wind, like certain people, and just because
Yeah,
as you were mentioning before about like the inequalities and, the country,
yeah.
I've kind of noticed like some people have kind of exposed themselves to me that may have been kind of close to me in the past, but I'm like, I can kind of do without that now in my life,
Right.
now that I'm an adult. I don't know, I've kind of found it like, I feel like it's healthier to have people around me that, I don't know, I've always kind of used this expression in my life, but like if it's not like a hell yes, then why am I doing it,
That's a good outlook.
So I think about that with like all instances in my life. Like if I feel like that person, okay, Joe Schmo calls me up or whatever. If it's not like a hell yes to go hang out with Joe, then why the fuck am I hanging out with Joe? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I've been kind of like doing that kind of thing.
I've definitely done kind of the same thing where I really try and utilize the time that I have the best way it can possibly be used. So.
Have you been watching any like TV shows or listen to any podcasts in particular?
I have literally been like binge watching and repeating Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Nice.
I think that show is just ridiculous. I watched. I'm kind of an oddball. I don't really like play a ton of video games. I don't really watch a ton of movies or TV shows. let's see what else. I watch a lot of like crime investigator documentaries and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
Before
cool.
all of this shit happened this year, there used to be a huge part of me that actually wanted to be, like, not necessarily a police officer, but like a homicide investigator or something, because I
Yeah,
actually wanted to help people.
yeah,
But it seems really very ill in my mind now. But I really like watching those crime, like those real like unsolved mysteries and stuff like that. What else?
yeah.
Watched The Masked Singer.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's just random and stupid. I feel like especially that first little minute of quarantine there, like we watched just about everything that seemed interesting. So now we're back to just repeating stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
my wife loves those crime detective
they're so,
things or whatever.
some of them are heartbreaking, dude. Like,
Yeah, they're terrible sometimes.
we just watched one last night. I can't remember. Oh man, they just put it up on Hulu. Um, some guy, his wife, and their two kids. It's probably still on the featured thing, but yeah, it's just
Mhm.
messed up. I can't believe this year, like you said, people exposing themselves. It's just so hard to believe what some people can do and think.
Yeah. So when you say we, are you like talking about your girlfriend, wife?
Yeah, girlfriend. I call her
Okay.
my wife. But yeah, we've been together for over 3 years now, and
Nice.
um, yeah, things are amazing. I could not imagine going through this year without her.
Yeah. I I feel the same way about my wife. She's my
That's what's
right
up,
hand person.
right? Yep.
It's good to have those people in your corner, especially in times like these.
Yeah.
Um, so anyways, I want to know more about like you, like your influences and stuff like that behind the band because you guys are, like when I post stuff on Twitter, a lot of the times I do get like a reflections, like shout out. Someone's
Hmm.
like, "Hey, check them out," and I heard about you guys through like Spotify. I'm not gonna lie, like it was here recently, but what would you attribute your influences with, like an artist in particular?
For me personally, with where the band is now, um, I would say like probably one of my biggest musical influences um, would be like if you took Structures divided by album and mixed it with like Slipknot's Iowa,
Hmm.
like the the composition and like all out aggression of Divided by from Structures was like such a huge thing for me to like wrap my head around when that came out. And I remember being in 6th grade and really listening to Slipknot's Iowa for the first time, and um, you can really hear like where he was at emotionally in that album, and that
Hmm.
really resonated with me because I had heard other metal bands, at that point in time. Like I think I had a couple Metallica CDs, um, and like I don't know, some band called Korn. It was more like radio rock, I guess, because my dad used to get CDs from this radio company because he worked at a school. And yeah, when I got my hands on Slipknot's Iowa, that was just crazy. So those two, and definitely Mick Gordon again, the guy who produced that Doom soundtrack. When I heard that, that was a really huge thing for me because I have always been in metal really drawn towards low tunings and very percussive aspects of it.
Hmm.
Being a drummer, um, I just feel like it's very powerful. So those are some of my biggest influences musically. Lyrically, again, I would go back to like an older Slipknot. Um, some like older Korn music. Um, that was another very emotional metal band that I really appreciated. And I always liked older Suicide Silence. I found out about Suicide Silence on MySpace back when their band photo was all members of Family Guy photoshopped on their heads.
Yeah.
And when I was listening to them through that period of time with their EP and a couple of releases before that, and then The Cleansing came out, I was just really, that was the album that actually made me want to switch from doing drums to trying out being a vocalist, was just because of how crazy he sounded on that record. So that was like a big turning point for me in music. It's funny how things change.
Yeah, like when I started getting into like the scene, air quotes or whatever, like I was a huge Suicide Silence fan, and like I got into like the Black Crown at that time, but like I was still kind of like taking the singles from The Cleansing, and I really enjoyed like, you know, Mitch's like presence, and then in his passing or whatever, in his passing or whatever, I kind of got more into the band. You know, unfortunately, I hate that it came to that for me to like really dive deeper into the band, but you know, that was like a huge turning point. And I remember specifically, do you remember the dedication concert for Mitch?
Yeah, yep.
So seeing that and like just seeing like Eddie from Al Shall Perish basically take his place, and kind of like that whole like show, it just kind of put me into like metalcore like indefinitely at that point. And I started kind of just like really diving deeper into it, like Whitechapel and all these other bands at the time. But
Yeah.
I mean, that was like later, well, not later, but like that was like around 2010, I guess.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Like kind of around this, when This Is Exile was
Yeah.
really popping off too. Yeah, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that album influenced a lot of drumming stuff for me. Drumming influences definitely were like Whitechapel, Suicide Silence, the Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza, like Danza 3,
Mm-hmm.
that album. Oh my God, dude. Like, I still tell Josh even now, I'm like, every time like someone posts about that, I message him like, you know, this is like the best metal album ever, right? So I fucking love that album. It's such a monster.
So why do you think like metalcore kind of gets, you know, it gets a lot of slack or whatever, but like why do you think it gets that from like, you know, elitist or whatever? Like why isn't it like recognized as like a really top tier like metal group?
It could be because in some ways there's too much tearing each other down as opposed to building each other up in it. I think that's gotten a lot better now. That could also just be partially my being less involved in social media, that I don't necessarily see it as much, maybe. Because I do really feel like the time that I spent away from metal, like over these past 4 years that we were on hiatus, I really watched a lot of bands and just kind of like was just trying to keep my understanding of where the genre was going, you know, to an extent. And I feel like, I don't know if it's Spotify that has really helped a lot. But I do feel like metalcore has been brought closer to the surface than it was. And I do really hope that it can continue to grow into more of a communal thing as opposed to, again, something where people just kind of try and bring each other down. Because I saw something about that really, because I will admit in my own fault that many years ago, especially when the band was starting out, it made me upset when I saw a band that I thought was doing better than us, because I was like, well, damn, like, because I'd see their label really pushing for them or their manager working really hard. And it was more so like, why isn't our label doing that for us? Why isn't our manager doing that for us? Like, and I realized, I read something that was like, someone just tweeted, it was just some random person on Twitter, I think, that said, I promise you, supporting your friend's success will not diminish your own. And I was like, it's so true, because like, and you see it all the time in, especially like the hip hop community. I mean, at least from what I can see, maybe I'm not involved enough in it to see, but I feel like there's a lot more support. And if someone writes a good track, like, it's not like, oh yeah, it's just like, oh dude, this is a fucking banger, like, let's go.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, there needs to be more of that in the community, I think. But
No,
time will tell.
I
And,
agree.
yeah.
I definitely agree with that because, yeah, like you said, I mean, I think in the metal community or maybe rock community in general, but there is definitely like this crabs in a bucket mentality
Yeah.
across the board. I mean, they're just like, oh my God, like, why is this band doing better than me? And instead of like looking at it like that, like they should look at it as like, okay, if Bring Me the Horizon puts out, Obey with Youngblood, who's like this rapper, emo guy, whatever, and he's like mainstream, okay, well that can only benefit, or
Exactly.
the whole community can only benefit from the whole single or whatever, like it's making rock relevant, so like have you gotten that a lot from like other bands like maybe you've gone on tour with or whatever? Like, do you think that there is definitely a crabs in a bucket mentality?
I have absolutely gotten that attitude from other people before. You hate to see it, but at the same time, when you do see it, you get that moment of introspection where it's like, damn, do I do that sometimes? And that's when you're
Yeah.
like, that's when you gotta instill that change into yourself. And yeah, because literally, just like you said, when bands do stuff like that, sure, they may be distancing themselves a little bit, but they are carrying the community to a whole nother platform,
Mm-hmm.
because if we want to keep using Bring Me as an example, people are going to find that band and they're also going to discover their back catalog.
Yeah.
And who's to say they're not going to like some of that? And then from that, and I think this is where things like Spotify and algorithms have really come into play lately and helped a lot of bands. If someone visits that old Bring Me discography of fucking Suicide Season, it might bring them to a band like Currents or something that's a younger band, and completely opens a whole nother door, because that's what happened to me when I found Suicide Silence on MySpace. I found Danza, and then when The Cleansing came out, that album brought me to Whitechapel and Veil of Maya and Carnifex and Oceano. And when I was like, what the fuck is all of this?
Yeah.
And I was just completely blown away by that, because I was listening to music and I'd find like 10 seconds of a song from an older band, maybe it would be considered thrash metal or something. And I'd be like, damn, man, that 10 seconds was so sick, And then you find all these bands where it's like 3 minutes of that, and you're like, woo!
So is the whole band from Twin Cities, Minnesota?
There was a point in time where that was the case. Then Nick joined the band in like 2012, pretty much, because he did our like first tour with us, and he was from New York. That was our first out-of-state person, and now we have our new guitarist, rhythm guitarist, that is from Arizona, but now he lives in Louisiana. So we are kind of spread out, but not really. Francis, Patty, and I are still all in Minnesota, but not necessarily Twin Cities area anymore.
Okay. So I'm guessing the original lineup was based out of Twin Cities?
Yep, it was me, Patty, our drummer, Bo, who I met from a different band that I was in when we played a show together. And then Francis's friend Alex was the other guitarist, and myself. And then Alex left pretty quickly to go to school before we were like halfway done recording our first album at that point, I think.
Oh, geez. So like what was like the biggest show, I guess, that you guys played, collectively from the jump till now? Like what was the biggest show?
Probably just like festivals that we've played. I used to have my lanyards, but now I don't even know where they are. I don't know. I always like playing like the New England Metal and Hardcore Fest. So those usually have an awesome turnout, and it wasn't like it was an environment where it was enclosed still.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I guess I like that. There'd be a few thousand people there for that, so that was fun.
That's pretty big though.
Yeah, no, I mean it was really cool. I mean
Yeah.
that wasn't necessarily like. I mean, it certainly was not our show. We were a part of something collective, but I would definitely say those are probably some of the biggest shows that we played. There was another one too that we played. I can't remember what it was, but fucking King 810 was there, and this was like before Memoirs of a Murderer came out, and their like road crew or something like actually popped off like a AK-47, and they had to like clear out the whole festival and
Oh my
shut it
God.
down. Yeah, and that was the last year that they did that festival too. I'm pretty sure that was like 2013.
That's crazy.
There was a shit ton of people there for that, so that kind of sucked.
Yeah. So no Warp tours or anything like that for you guys?
We never did Warp Tour. It would have been really cool. I think the opportunity that we would have had to do it, the band was on hiatus because there was that year where they had a lot of bands on there. It was like Acacia, Sworn In, Sylar, After the Burial. Like they had a little bit more of like our demographic on there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at that point we had been sitting out for 2 years already, so it was just, and then it was done. I think one more year after that. So, but I also don't know how well it would have gone for us at the time. I think it's weird now because The Color Clear has really sat with a lot of people for a while, and I think we have more fans now than we did when we went on hiatus, which was kind of weird how that worked out.
Yeah, definitely. So like as a band that comes off a hiatus or whatever, like, do you guys want to do more singles now, or do you think you're just gonna hold out for another album? Like, what do you think?
Well, I'll spill the beans. We have about 13 to 16 songs right now that we've worked on during the lockdown. Some of them we did ourselves. We also collaborated with a few people on it that I'm really, really excited about. And personally, I am very much so an album person. I like listening to albums. I like things that have concepts and that go into each other. But things like Spotify aren't really fans of that. And it is much, much easier to get your songs plays and add it onto playlists and to let that algorithm work for you if you release them as singles. So we are planning on releasing singles basically kind of over the course of a year and then collectively wrapping them up maybe at 16 months with what will be kind of this collaborative EP record. Simultaneously working on our next actual full album, which we have kind of plans for the next couple of years. So I'm not sure when we'll see an actual cohesive, full, just Reflections new album again. But there's definitely lots of music that's going to come out and likely as singles.
That's cool. So I guess we heard it first, straight from the horse's mouth. So, look forward to that. But I do want to know, like, as we were talking about touring, a segment I do on the show is like, what are some crazy road stories that you're willing to share?
Um, Damn. Well, I mean, the car accidents are always some of the craziest ones. I remember we were, I think it was always in Colorado too, or on the way to Colorado. Um, I was sleeping in the back of the van, and we had like these little windows, and I remember I was like, kind of woke up because I felt really weird, like my body felt really weird, and when I looked out the window, like normally you see like the side of the highway passing by like this, but instead I just like saw the road going at the wrong direction, and then I was like, what the hell is going on? And then I saw lights and like smashed into the side of the van, and we were spinning and we went off the road, and like just that moment where everyone's sitting in the van, like what the like, are we upside down? Like, is everyone alive? And then we get out, and we were going up this hill, and our trailer the van had jackknifed or something, and it was pulling down, and the trailer swung around and smacked itself into the van so hard that it like pulled us off the road. And we were lucky enough to not really be around any cars and get out of there and get back on the road. And now we just had a huge, lovely dent in the side of our van. But that thing was like literally maybe less than 6 inches away from where my head was. So that was crazy.
Holy shit.
What are some other things that were nuts? One time we went to a show, and like we had a package with us, and not only did the promoter of the show not show up, but the venue wasn't open, and like it was just absolute madness, dude. Like there was people there for the show. The bands were there to play, but the promoter didn't show up. No staff showed up. Like it was crazy. And then our manager called the promoter, who like was ducking his calls, and then the guy came and was like begging us to give him 3 days to find the money to pay us. And we were like, why? Like, can we play the show at least and like sell merch? He's like, I don't have the keys to the venue. Like, and we're like, wait, what is happening right now? So that was wild. One time we got stuck on a mountain in Colorado with like, God, it must have been 200 to 300 other cars. Like we were all stuck on this mountain because it was snowing so much. And I had taken a bunch of acid before that. So I was really like, whoa, because it was just, I mean, it was beautiful because we're like on the side of this mountain, and like, and we're like freaking out because we're trying to get to the venue. So we take the foot mats out of the van, and we're putting them under the tires and like driving up a foot at a time, like trying to get up this mountain. Oh man. And then some dude just came in a tow truck and like just started pulling people out one by one. So that was wild. Yeah, I guess most of the crazy stories are just weather and accident related. So
That's still really cool though. I mean, those stories are just stories that you'll always have, and you'll always reflect on those moments in your life. Well, that's dope. Holy shit, like time is flying by. I'm going to start kind of wrapping it up here. So are you guys independent right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went through quite a process with our label to get to an independent status. It was not fun or easy, but I'm very, very happy that we are independent again.
What are some like disadvantages, I guess, of like being signed?
The disadvantages of being signed are that your money gets filtered out to people that aren't doing a whole lot. The downside is that you hardly see any of the money that you're making. Your time isn't respected. The craft isn't respected. Because we were told we had to have an album done every 16 to 18 months. And, that sounds like a lot of time to write something. But when you're constantly being put on tour, also, that was the other thing. We had no real choice in our tour schedule. We were touring 6 to 8 months out of the year. I can remember after we had been touring for roughly 3 years, we went out to play a show in New York, and this guy came up to me and he's like, "Man, this is my 9th time seeing you guys." And I'm like, "You've seen us 9 times over 3 years?" Like, and that sucks because then you start noticing you can oversaturate yourself somewhere, especially when you only at that point, that was off. We were really touring off 1 or 2 albums. Other downsides, again, you just don't really own the things you're doing, and for me, it felt like you put all this time into making something to just give it away in exchange for some PR, and it's not like the label is booking your tours. You can get we have a booking agent right now. That's has nothing to do with a label. So the label apparently funds your album and does all this stuff, but I won't get too into it for just the purposes of who God knows who's going to listen to this, and I'm not trying to piss anybody off, but to our label, apparently, we just don't get anything for our music still, really. And we did at one point, but then when we got off the label, suddenly we weren't getting anything anymore again. So it was really nice for a change to pick who we wanted to do music videos and videos with, and where we want to play shows, and when we want to play shows, and what merch designs do we want to print, like what does our band look like, and what is our aesthetic. And because I remember when we were recording The Color Clear, one of our managers came to the studio, and he's sitting there on the couch listening to it, and he's like, "Well, this isn't what I was expecting." And we were like, "Oh, is that a bad thing?" And he's like, "I don't know. We were just expecting you guys to go more of like a BT Bam direction." And I was like, "Okay, well, no, there's nothing wrong with BT Bam, but it's like, are you even do you know what band you signed?" And then when they marketed our album, it was for fans of Periphery and Born of Osiris or something. And it's again, cool bands, but that's not, it's wrong, So it's just it felt so impersonal the whole time. And I'm sure it's not like that for everybody. That was that just happened to be our set of circumstances. So
that makes sense. So sometimes you can kind of get signed to the wrong I don't know, person in a way, and just get marketed the way you didn't want to be marketed.
Yep.
Well, that makes a lot of sense because there is a huge DIY presence on the show. A lot of my friends that run their own bands, they do a lot themselves, and they're not signed, and they wear a lot of hats. So I think that may help some people that are I don't know if I should sign or if I should not sign. That's an interesting boat to sit in.
I think if you have the drive, and there's definitely you have to be able to adapt and gain a little insight on how to market yourself. And you're going to make mistakes, and things aren't going to go right, and you're going to take a hit here and there. But at the end of the day, when you do figure it out, and you figure out what works, there are plenty of tools nowadays to do it on your own. Mm-hmm. So I stand firmly by that.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, what I do or whatever, I do it all myself. There's never going to be a situation where I'm all right, I'm gonna get signed, because there's no getting signed, you know, like I'm just a fucking podcast guy and I'm just gonna talk to random bands. But you know, I do it out of love, so like I guess my expectations will always be low, you know, so like there's not a lot of high expectation there. We've got to the hour mark. I don't want to hold you up longer than, you know, I said before. I think we could definitely do another episode in the future, because I feel like I could pick your brain a lot more.
For sure. Well, we'll definitely have more tunes and topics to discuss. So
yeah, definitely. We'll have to catch up another time. But now that we've kind of came to the end mark or whatever, are there any like final thoughts, anything in particular that you want to tell the viewers, or anything you want to say before we head out?
I guess I'll just say that we have some really cool stuff that's about to start popping off here pretty soon. I'm really excited about it. I think a lot of y'all will be stoked on it too. So get ready for that. And I also have another project coming up here pretty soon that I think a lot of people are going to be pretty excited about too. So some cool things in a very dark year.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, since I started it in a fun way, we're going to end it in a fun way. And I'm going to ask the final question. And so if you could have anything tangible in the world, or, you know, not tangible, what would it be?
Anything in the world?
Yeah, anything in the world, no restrictions, no time limit. Just
Is this like a possessional thing?
It could, yeah. It could be just like anything that you just really just want, if you can manifest that.
I mean, I'm working on it right now, but I would absolutely love to have a perfectly sound-treated, acoustically proper recording environment that I could utilize not only for myself, but for other musicians that don't have the access to that, so that they wouldn't need to sacrifice their music to go to a label to try and find funding for it. Something like that. Mm-hmm. I would love just a perfect little music hangout for everybody that was safe and away from everything. Someday.
That's sick. That's really selfless request.
Again, build each other up.
For sure. That was Jake Wolf, vocalist of Reflections. Go check out their latest album, Willow. Thanks again for being on the show. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you guys.
Thank you, man.
Well, that pretty much does it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please like the video and subscribe. That way you don't miss a new episode of Native Diamond Podcast. And until I see you guys on a future video, shine on.
Hell yeah.